Sauce Gardner plays for the Colts. Quinnen Williams plays for the Cowboys. It was a wild trade deadline. We're going to react to all of it today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate you all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app.
Joe, happy Victory Wednesday to Colts fans. I guess Victory Wednesday to Jets fans. We're going to talk a lot about the Jets on today's program. But I remember these days fondly. You know, if only the old TDN draft simulator was still around. I can only imagine the amount of time that I'd pour into running mock drafts for the New York Jets right now.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner, no longer a Jet. He's a Colt. They get a 2026 first, a 2027 first, and A.D. Mitchell. When you saw this deal come through, dude, what was that big thought in your mind?
Good for New York.
Yeah.
You know, and they'd obviously just done a contract, and it makes it even better. So they obviously paid the cash that they paid Sauce Gardner for this year as the first year of a rookie contract. And I think the way the contract lines up where the Jets pay a portion of it, the Colts are going to get a very friendly price point for their Sauce Gardner investment, which I think helps to mitigate you're not having to trade and then do the contract extension. But the way that the Jets structured the contract for Sauce, they only have $11 million in dead cap next year for what was at the time a record-setting cornerback extension. They get $11 million in overhead next year. Whoop-de-doo, right? Especially with all the other offloading of salary that they have. They're in a very healthy space in that regard. And I think Sauce Gardner is a quality starter at a minimum and a cornerstone player when he's playing at his best. Mm-hmm. But if you can get 2 1s from most players in the league, I'm going to generally say, hey, I think you'd be in a good position if you're not competing right now to take the 2 1s.
I see it very similarly. I like that component for the Jets. It's a rare opportunity to get a bunch of draft capital for a 1-7 team that's going to take a little time to be competitive. And this will help them get there. And obviously it creates somewhat of a hole because Sauce Gardner is an A-list corner, but they paid Brandon Stevens. They drafted Xavier Thomas. They got Jarvis Brownlee. And so they do have some answers at corner, but obviously a culture-setting opportunity here for Aaron Glenn. And, maybe there's some benefit in Sauce Gardner not being one of the foundational pieces of this roster moving forward now that they've had some time around him. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Sauce Gardner, but you identify who you want to build around and who you don't. And I think that's, if you don't feel like this is going to be an answer for you and take the chance to get the 2 first-round picks, I'll say this about the Colts. The biggest question I had about their roster was corner. I mean, to the point where they lured Xavier Howard out of retirement, started him, and then he retired again. Like, that's where they were at with corner. So they significantly upgrade that position. But here's the challenging thing for me when I look at this from the Colts perspective. And look, they're number 1 seed right now in the AFC. They're playing good ball. I'd be excited if I was a Colts fan for where this team is headed. But cornerback play, like high-level cornerback play, is one of the hardest to sustain things in the NFL. Like the variability year over year with cornerback play is pretty significant. And, you gave up a lot for that position. And I'm not predicting a drop-off from Sauce Gardner, but the reality is it's tough to sustain it year over year. And it's a position that where things around you matter to be able to optimize your performance, and the margins are very small. you're talking about inches when it comes to completions versus not completions, and that's why I think there's some variability there. So I understand it from the Colts perspective, but I don't think it's without risk.
Yeah, I think risk is the appropriate word. Like, now you would like to think in a much more complementary personnel group, and
Sure.
obviously the change in the coaching staff from what's been in New York to what we now have with Lou Anarumo. I think there's a very favorable projection of playing for Lou Anarumo, right?
That's a great fit. Yes.
I would expect Sauce to play much better than what he has the last year and a half. When you go back to the start of the 2024 season, when he was coming off of 2 All-Pro and Pro Bowl seasons as a first and second year player, the ball production's been down. He has 31 pass attempts and 2 interceptions in his first 2 seasons, and in his last season and a half, it's less than half of the passes total passes defensed. It's 1 interception and 15 PBUs in the last 22 games that he's played, right? So I expect a better environment to yield better results in that regard. And what that does to change the math of what the Colts are doing in their coverage with Cam Bynum, right? And you have Charvarius Ward on one side, and now you have Sauce Gardner on the other side. Just make a run. If they make a run this year, deep into the playoffs, I think you can look and say, hey, I think this is well worth it because the economic value, he's in the prime of his career physically. To go back to the Jets and the culture side of things for the Jets, because with that we could tie this back into Quinnen Williams now, unless you have more thoughts on Sauce. But you had a nucleus of a draft class that Joe Douglas drafted, and you came in and they chose to pay Garrett Wilson and they chose to pay Sauce Gardner, and they were trying to facilitate, this is who we want to be as a team. When you start 1-7 with this group of players, I've lived this firsthand with veteran players coming in and having done things in different ways, right? The way that Aaron Glenn does things, maybe it's still a tough defensive coach with some disciplinarian ideals like a Robert Saleh, but it's still a different regime, right? It's not a guy that you picked. You're trying to get buy-in on what your messaging is, on what we want to be as a team. I'm not saying Sauce wasn't bought in on all that stuff, right? And they obviously they paid him.
Yeah.
But it's easier to have that premier asset and go through your pre-draft process and identify, hey, we really think this guy really fits our vision of the what we want at this spot. So I think this has the potential to be a massive win-win for all teams involved. Hefty price to pay for the Colts, which that to me just means you hope Sauce Gardner ends up being for you what you think he's capable of being, because if he is, then everybody wins and you're right.
And they also sort of commit to Daniel Jones long term here with this move, with what you've given up. And I mean, maybe that'll be awesome, right? We'll see how the season plays out. He's certainly playing at a high level now, but that's kind of another consequence, symptom, if you will, from the Colts side of this deal. All right, the Jets, that's not all they did. They traded Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys. We'll break that down and the rest of the moves here next. Folks, be sure to stick with us. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next basket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It just keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And, of course, all the football is on there, the prop bets. If you're excited about the games, they make it even more exciting. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Dallas acquires Quinnen Williams. They give up Mozzie Smith.
A lot. They give up a lot.
A 2026 second-round pick and a 2027 first-round pick that is the higher of their pick, the Cowboys pick or the Packers pick. The Jets will get the higher pick. It's a lot.
Like later or earlier. To clarify,
the earlier pick.
The earlier pick, because that people would say higher. Does that mean
I get
higher
it.
in the draft order or higher is in like the higher number?
Kyle is for the people there. Well done.
I'm trying to think ahead.
Quinnen Williams is a good football player. Really good football player. But a 1 and a 2 in Mozzie Smith is to me very, very, very big price tag. I go back to the Colts trade for DeForest Buckner. That was just a 1, Kyle. That was just a 1. The two on top of that feels significant to me. I'm not saying that you want to go 1 and a 4, 1 and a 5, 1 and a 2 plus Mozzie Smith.
Is this not a little redundant with Osa Odigizua as well?
I don't think pairing them hurts.
Right. On obvious passing situations, you don't want Kenny Clark on the field, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, there were some edge guys available, and it's at this price, especially when you combine it and parlay it into the assets that they move being the pieces of the Micah Parsons trade, which you texted me earlier this morning.
I think I'm right about this, by the way.
I saw somebody else on the timeline had worded it very similarly. So I believe that it is effective to summarize. I'm pulling it up. I thought you were going to read it.
Oh, I have it. I didn't know if you were pulling it up. I didn't know.
The Parsons trade for Dallas ultimately ends up being Micah Parsons and Mozzie Smith for Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and a trade up from the 2nd to the 1st round in this year's draft.
That's what it is.
That's what I don't like about it, right? It was the selling point of, well, we can get more assets and we can pay more players. You bring in expensive later stage Kenny Clark. You bring in Quinnen Williams, who will be 29 years old or 28 years old in December. So next year will be his full age 28 season, will be 29 by the end of next year. You already have you're paying Osa handsome money. He had a $20 million contract per year.
Yeah.
To be a penetration interior defensive lineman and a pass rush disruptor. Getting's good for New York in this one as well, in my opinion. And obviously the big domino is they chose the 1st round pick to come in 2027, which now has everybody wondering what the strategy is for New York as a football team. Of they got 2 1s this year and they got 3 1s in 2027, and how good of a draft class that's going to be. Do they draft a quarterback? I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback this year.
Probably shouldn't.
I don't. It's like, oh, they're tanking. They're going to get the number 1 overall pick, and they're going to draft Fernando Mendoza. No,
with all due respect to Mr. Mendoza, that's not
a quarterback you tank for.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, he's not.
No.
So, and if I were the Jets, I probably would use the investments for now to load up the rest of my roster, because the other side of that coin, what's the last team we saw tear a team down like this? The Dolphins in 19. Is that fair to say?
Maybe the Panthers. Maybe. Probably the more clear would be Miami with what they gave.
Miami, where they offload all the guys in 18, and then they trade Minka and Laramie Tunsil at the beginning of 2019 season. And you got the morning shows on the worldwide leader talk about how you need to start an investigation for the player safety because the team's not talented enough to be on an NFL field. Like, that's how bad the teardown was, right?
Yeah, remember it.
And I'm not saying the Jets are at that spot. But if you put the quarterback first with the roster that I think you now have in place, and they've got an offensive line, they have that working for them, and they have Garrett Wilson. I would just want to have the floor of the roster be higher before using the first premier asset I have on the quarterback piece of it, especially with what I think this quarterback class is and is not.
The other side of this is obviously the Jets. They have some great assets over the next 2 drafts. They also need a lot. So,
and they've given themselves more to need.
Yes, 100%. They need a defense tackle. They need a corner. They need a lot of things. But their foundation of this offensive line, Garrett Wilson, and this draft capital with, a rookie class that's not nothing that they just got. That's kind of their foundation moving forward. And on one hand, I kind of respect the idea of just zooming out and looking at the AFC and asking yourself what it's going to take to be in the mix of contending. And I think these are steps that can help. It's going to take a little time, but it's good to see after the Jets tried to fast track everything multiple times throughout the years. Like the Jets hype trains have been completely ridiculous.
Right. The Rodgers maneuver and go with the Zach Wilson draft and how they paired that with other young players and what it was Vera Tucker. Then they traded up for Vera Tucker in the same class, and we fought about it on our live show. Like, they got real aggressive.
Yeah.
Right. So process oriented in New York. Now, the other side of that coin is that's not a very patient market.
Maybe they should be.
They should be.
Maybe you should have learned a lesson.
Do not let the general public pressure you into breaking the pace of what you've signed yourself up for now. Because if you do that, you're going to end up trading a 2 and a 1 and a player for Quinnen Williams.
Embrace the suck. We'll see you in 2028,
Right.
That's what you should do. All right. While we're talking about the Jets, any thoughts from you on maybe some of the players they didn't trade? Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson. I don't want to speculate about others, and maybe Harrison Phillips is a player they could have moved on from. Those linebackers, like, how do you sort out the players that they didn't trade foiled against who they did trade?
In New York?
Yeah.
I'd have moved Breece.
Do you think they have to extend him now? Is that?
You probably should. I would have taken the 4 from Kansas City.
Yeah, I would have too. I'm glad they didn't give him to him, but
I guess if they do go quarterback this year, you're looking at, if you keep Breece, offensive line, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Mason Taylor is like the run game nucleus around what could be a young quarterback. I think that can be an effective group. I just don't think what they have lined up now and their competitive window versus now paying Breece Hall potentially a second contract. That, to me, there's no congruency there with, we're going to sign ourselves up for a 3-year long haul build, and we have a running back in a contract year who will be 28 by the time we're ready to compete.
Yeah.
And we'll have paid for 3 years. Like, that to me that's not a 1-for-1 that makes sense.
Take the 4.
Take the 4.
Take the 4. It's Jermaine Johnson. I think now there's probably some urgency to stay committed there as well.
Yeah, that's one you were probably hoping you can.
Surely there was
find a deal sooner rather than later.
Yeah. All right, a couple of receivers. What do I always say? They get traded. 2 of them got traded yesterday. Jakobi Meyers, Rasheed Shaheed. We'll reflect on that. Some other moves as well. So, folks, be sure to stick with us. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payments into real rewards. When you pay your rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. I love that Built. And with Built, your rent finally works for you. You're earning points every month on something that you already have to pay. So turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNFL. And make sure to use our link so that they know we sent you.
Two wide receiver deals.
Jakobi Meyers goes from Vegas to Jacksonville for a 4th and a 6th round pick. I think Jakobi Meyers is a good football player. Good route runner, inside outside guy, consistent at the catch point. And to me, that's really significant. I know that Jacksonville's dealing with some injuries. Brian Thomas Jr. with the ankle, Travis Hunter on the shelf. So they needed something to step in here. And one of the issues that Jacksonville's had this year is drops. 11.3% drop rate for Trevor Lawrence this year. There's 235 dropped air yards, both numbers number one in the NFL, unsurprising. Jakobi Meyers career drop rate 3.8%. So I think that the variability of Trevor Lawrence is pretty significant. You don't want to ruin the highs by dropping the football, right? And I think Jakobi Meyers will give them some consistency there and help with some of the injuries they're dealing with right now.
I'm a big fan of the Rasheed Shaheed move for Seattle.
Me too.
So that ended up being, was that a third equivalent as well that he got moved for?
Yeah, it's a 4 and a 5, so I think it kind of nets as a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you put that into what JSN is, what they have with their heavy personnel, when they go 12 personnel, you put that into Torrey Horton as a young player who I think this is a deluxe version of a player that can fill that kind of role as a Z and a lift guy. Holy smokes, man. Like Cooper Kupp, get ready to cheer this team on from the sideline. It's just the dynamic ability of Shaheed, who has been productive. He's pacing for like just short of 1,000 yards this year. He's got 499 receiving yards in 9 games. But the yards per reception at 11%, I mean, that's almost 6.5 yards down from what it was last year. That's 4 yards under his career average in 4 seasons.
Who was the OC in New Orleans last year, Kyle Crabbs?
Clint Kubiak.
Yeah. The OC.
Who knows how to get that 18 yards per catch
yeah.
value out of Rasheed Shaheed.
With a quarterback in Sam Darnold, who's playing a lot better than anything New Orleans has had.
You want to get up under center with a 12 personnel grouping, Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet in the backfield, and you want to put JSN and Shaheed on the field, and you want to do 7-step under center drop play action game, you can be a movie.
Yeah.
There's a vertical lift element. There's a middle of the field element. The tight ends can catch the ball. They can flex out. They can run routes. I like what Seattle's cooking, man. A lot.
100%. And I think the other layer to this is Rasheed Shaheed immediately becomes their best yards after catch player. Not really something that you look at this overall team and feel like there's a lot of.
Mm-hmm. And
so you have verticality, you got return ability, but you also have yak that you get from Shaheed, which I think really rounds out their offensive weaponry. And credit to them. I mean, Sam Darnold's playing at a high level. Let's go. Let's give him more to maximize, because I think I love so much of the offensive structure. I love their defense, of course, but what's Sam Darnold going to look like in those key clutch moments down the stretch? I think you give your best opportunity for that to be a good thing with a player like Shaheed in the mix. So I love it.
Where was the rest of the league on this deal?
Good question, Kyle Crabbs. Because there's teams out there that need receiver.
I know your team,
Buffalo, yeah.
I was saying, I know your team was interested in a wide receiver. Pittsburgh, they've been rumored to be calling all over the world. This would have been a perfect compliment for DK Metcalf.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's.
You want to talk about teams that play heavy personnel. Arthur Smith plays all the tight ends on the field all the time. Aaron Rodgers loves a good get up to the line of scrimmage, and I see a single high post player, and I'm gonna signal, and we're gonna throw the go ball. He loves it. This would have been perfect for Pittsburgh. Why would you not be interested?
It's a great question, Kyle Crabbs. It's a great, even New England.
Shoot, dude, I would even put the New York Giants in this one. And I know they're a team that's there's some hot seats on display there. So I know that makes it more complicated, but like they were a team that could have, and a few weeks ago would have been interested in like trying to acquire Jalen Waddle as a splash player. How about Sean Payton and Denver?
Yes.
We're interested in a wide receiver. All these other teams, you couldn't muster up a 3. And maybe they did. I don't know.
Yeah,
but maybe you did, and then you got Cole. I don't know. But the whole league should have been on this one at this value, in my opinion.
Totally agree.
What's he going to cost on an extension? Because he's a contractor. That's your concern. But what's Rasheed Shaheed going to cost?
Who's your comparables there?
I don't have a lot of good ones, but
he's a unique player, right?
Yes.
I'm curious if Spot Rack has a value. Okay, Spot Rack's market value is $18.2 million APY. Their comparables are Jameson Williams, Christian Kirk, Jerry Jeudy, and Khalil Shakir.
Not, and to be fair for Spot Track, that is age at contract, projected valuation, production profile.
But not I mean, like, those players were all 25 or younger when they signed their deals. Shaheed's 27. I mean, in my head, I was thinking around 20 million. I thought was probably what he'll get.
And I was going to say 16 to 18 would have been my guess. So
yeah,
16 to $20 million for a wide receiver 2 that's a Z that runs a lot of for the love of the game routes and can hit home runs for you. And
watch the Bills trade a 3rd-round pick for Amari Cooper.
Right. Yeah, and I couldn't help but wonder, like, okay, was the Amari Cooper PTSD too real for Buffalo where they didn't want to do this again? Or?
Hey, Brandon Beane has said openly that he wants to trade for players that are not on expiring contracts. He wants the extra year, right? And so he got that with Rasul Douglas. He got that with Naheem Hines. He got that with Kelvin Benjamin, other players that he's traded for at the deadline. He didn't get with Amari Cooper, and what happened?
And they couldn't hit him in the rear end.
Yeah, so I think he's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So
I'll say this: I would rather pay Rasheed Shaheed $20 million than pay Jameson Williams 26 3/4.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Anyway, I digress. We have other moves, some depth moves. You want to read off the other deals that got that we didn't touch on?
Yeah. So the Bears get defensive end Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and a 6 for a 7 from the Browns. Obviously, they need depth. The Bears
6-7. 6-7 spot. 6-7.
There it is. 6-7 spot. The dude's played 31 snaps of defense for the Browns, but obviously Dayo Odeyingbo is injured for the Bears, and they needed pass rush with him healthy. So,
how many snaps did Tryon-Shoyinka play this year?
31 defensive snaps, healthy all year. Yeah, probably not it, right? I actually really like this trade for the Chargers. They get Trevor Penning for a 7th-round pick.
Yeah, I like that for them. Desperately needed some offensive line reinforcements amidst all the injuries.
Yeah.
Former 1st-round pick, has that nasty that Harbaugh's going to like.
No, Trevor Penning has not met the promise of being a top 20 pick, but let's not act like he hasn't played guard and tackle and has logged 2,000 snaps in the NFL. And where the Chargers' offensive line is at with injuries to Alt and Slater and Becton and Hart, come on, dude. 75% of the league could use Trevor Penning. No offensive lineman got traded other than Trevor Penning. And like, there's no criticism that's necessary for the Chargers on this trade. That's a very, very worthwhile swing.
They should have done this deal even if Bobby Hart wasn't healthy, or even if Bobby Hart wasn't hurt. It'd still be an upgrade, a monumental upgrade over Bobby Hart.
And for like the 6th offensive line rage, Trevor Penning is like perfect for that.
All right, line buddy up at tight end if you had these guys healthy, but you don't. But that's okay. Just a good trade.
I don't know how much you want to talk about. Jasir Taylor goes from the Chargers to the Jets for a conditional 7th-round pick in 2028.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that deal.
I don't really understand why the Chargers did that, because he's played for them, but maybe he said something.
They're a little backlogged, right? They got a lot of young. They got a lot of young corners.
Yeah. So they moved on. So,
I'm sitting here shaking my head in disgust. And Tryon-Shoyinka could play 31 snaps and get traded, and the Dolphins don't trade Bradley Chubb.
Maybe all the reasons that you wanted them to move Bradley Chubb are exactly the reasons nobody traded for him.
But here's the thing. Ian Rappaport said they held to their price. They had a principal price on Bradley. There's no reason to have a principal
go ahead and cave, right? I think a lot of people held to their price, and a lot of deals didn't get done.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of got the sense that once the heavyweight stuff started happening, doesn't that kind of change like
just the regular trades?
Yeah, it's like, well, what are we going to do this for if this is the magnitude of deals that are getting done that are going to move the needles for teams? Should we, if we're going to be investing resources, should we be investing resources in ways that, unless we have a totally devastated offensive line group like the Chargers do, what's the point of the 49ers bringing on salary to trade for Bradley Chubb if the Cowboys are bringing on Quinnen Williams and the Colts are bringing on Sauce Gardner? Like, I have a feeling a lot of these smaller trade conversations changed once the big dominoes started to fall. And I know that to be true because I know another player that the Dolphins had trade conversations with was a deal that did not happen because the team that they were talking about ended up investing big assets in one of the big trades.
teams like the Patriots, Bills, Steelers, Chiefs, Texans.
Those are hold your price. Those were
Lions.
hold your price offers.
Yeah, like a lot of teams that I thought Tampa, just different teams where you're like, there's pieces out there that should be available that can help your teams.
Yeah.
And these deals just didn't happen. But the other side is, if you are some of these teams, whether the Dolphins, the Jets, the Titans, the Browns, the Saints, like, why weren't you more willing to let some guys go?
Well, I think not to turn it into a Dolphins segment, but I think Champ Kelly being the interim GM probably had something to do with that.
He had to have been given an assignment from ownership to do this, or like,
well, and they moved Jalen Phillips and they got a top 100 pick,
which is not nothing. It was a great trade, but
right.
I felt like there was more, right?
Well, and that was, you could have offset the salary that you ate for Jalen Phillips by moving Bradley Chubb and getting the incentive money that he could potentially have earned. It's right now it's trending for about $4 million. You could offset almost all what you ate if you moved him.
Chiefs, Lions, Niners, all these teams should have been in on that.
Well, and I guess they had offers, but they didn't want to move him because the new GM might decide, I want to post June 1st cut him in March, because nobody's going to trade for him when he's got a $20 million salary next year.
Right.
The attractive window was now, where you might pay $6 million for half a year or $5 million for half a year, depending on how much production he gets for you.
Yeah.
Surprised New England didn't make something happen too. Obviously, there's good chemistry in that room. Maybe that was really important to them, where Mike Vrabel and the group that they have, and it's a group that's really energized. But man, they should smell blood in the water. They've got a head-to-head win against Buffalo. Yep. They've got a last place schedule, right?
Yep.
Like,
yeah,
they
get it.
Should be dreaming big.
Yeah, go win. That would be, if they win the division, that'd be significant.
Hasn't happened in what, 6 years?
And Bills have had the last 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So they should smell blood in the water, but they're going to have to do it with the group that they got now.
And they actually sold, right? They sold.
Right. They got rid of more than they added.
Right. So,
all right. That's going to do it for us. Trade deadline is in the books. Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino, we appreciate you guys as always for checking the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We'll be back to talk to you all again tomorrow on more than one of our programs, because we have our crossover Thursday that we're going to go record right now for tomorrow as well. So we hope to see you soon.